Welcome back to another episode of ReelTok Podcast. This is ReelQuick, episode 37. As always, I am joined alongside my very handsome co-hosts, Seth, Tyler, and Cam. We are back for another patron-selected movie review. For those of you who do not know, we are on Patreon. Check it out if you haven't. I think we got some pretty good perks. We got the Discord up and running. We're doing movie watch-alongs. We are doing these Real Quicks where we do drafts and movie reviews of things our patrons select. We are also on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd. Give us a like, a comment, a subscribe on YouTube, a follow on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Rate us 5 stars. Drop us a review. This week, shout out to one of our patrons, Tobias Johnson. He selected Sam Raimi's OG, The Evil Dead, with Evil Dead Rise coming out in, I think, like 2 weeks
2
or
weeks,
so.
just over.
Yeah, just over 2 weeks. This just felt right. To my absolute jealousy, Seth has already seen Evil Dead Rise, but I believe this was a first-time watch for The Evil Dead for both Tyler and Cam. So I'm excited to hear their thoughts. Let's just get right into it. And obviously, I'm going to start with Tyler or Cam, one of you, because you two are not, I don't think you guys are as high on horror the way Seth and I are. But I also think The Evil Dead is a good movie to not introduce you to horror, but it's a good horror movie for you guys to watch because it is gory, but it is like we've been texting each other a lot about it. It is campy. So Tyler, we'll start with you because I found your Letterboxd review super honest as always and just very interesting because you did acknowledge the movie may not have necessarily been for you, but you respect the shit out of the fact that Sam Raimi was 21 years old when he made this fucking movie.
Yeah, absolutely crazy that he was that young. I feel like from a technical filmmaking perspective, like it's wild that he was this young and achieved this. I feel like from the plot perspective, though, it seemed like it could be a debut type plot because I feel like it just became kind of a cluster and just was like, it was fun, it was campy, it was like revolutionary for the time, but I feel like it wasn't the craziest in terms of like what the actual story was. But in terms of the filmmaking craft, insane. This is like weird because like Riley and I were like in the mood to watch a zombie movie a while ago. We were looking up like what are the best ones, and this is always high on a lot of lists. But like I texted this to Cam, I was like, this didn't really feel like a zombie movie to me. It felt much more like possession, like a possessed.
Yeah,
possession.
Yeah,
so
I would never call this a zombie
which is
movie.
Every single list of like best zombie movies of all time will have like The Evil Dead on it. And I was
really?
Like, yeah, so that's why I was like going into this like I didn't think it was a zombie movie. It's much more possession. Yeah, the practical effects were just crazy in this, and like how he had stop motion animation at the end, like just such a cool film. Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, this is so not for me. Like, this just didn't entertain me, engage me. I didn't love my time with this in terms of like enjoyment. Like, this isn't the type of movie I would normally watch, but I respect the hell out of everything in this movie. There's some moments of campiness. So much suspense, like way more suspenseful than I expected it to be. Like the first like 30 minutes especially, I was just like, holy shit, like something needs to happen because I'm just like waiting, like I'm on the edge of my seat.
Yeah.
And then and then like the vine scene and like there's just so much crazy filmmaking that goes on here. So like George kind of preluded to, I respect the hell out of everything in this film. Not for me whatsoever. I'm still like planning on watching the second one this week and I'm gonna go through the whole series, but not exactly for me. Still a crazy movie that was brilliantly executed. A lot of screams, like Cam said in our group chat. Like there was around like
lots
the halfway,
of screams, man.
Around the halfway mark. I think I timed
they
like
should be called scream.
Yeah, there's like a 45-second straight scream with like no pause, no breath around the halfway point where like I think that one of the people gets stabbed and there's just like the demonic scream for 45 seconds uncut, and then they just start like ejaculating or whatever out of their wrist or whatever that gets cut off.
Yeah.
Just a wild, gnarly movie. But I had fun with it from the aspect of just appreciating it as a movie. Just wasn't my favorite thing.
Yeah, you kind of brought up like one of like the big reasons why I love this movie. And I don't even hold the highest in this franchise. I think Evil Dead 2 is a little bit better. But this movie is like such a cool like genre blend of like suspense, gory ass horror, campy, comedic moments. There's so much like there's just a lot of different things being like thrown in our face, and I think it works for like what Sam Raimi was going for because I don't think he ever intended on making a serious horror film. I think he wanted to play around with the practical effects, and I think he knew that it was going to come off campy, so he just kind of embraced that with his screenplay.
Especially in the second one, which
especially. I will say this for Tyler and Cam. I think you'll enjoy the second one a little more.
I agree.
Cam, what were your thoughts on The Evil Dead?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Tyler on this. I enjoyed it maybe a little bit more than him, but I'm not an 80s horror guy. I'm not a horror guy in general. Like, there are a lot of horror movies or a couple, I guess, that I enjoy a lot. And I think are really well done. And this one is in the vein of, I think it was really well. I didn't enjoy it too much. Like, the first 30 minutes, like Tyler said, is very suspense filled, but man, I was waiting for something to happen. For the first 30 minutes, I was like, what's going on here? I don't know. I just expected maybe something to happen in that time or however long. And it's only an hour and a half movie. So that may be why I expected a little bit more for it to pick up. It's obviously like something where it's like Tyler said, overly done gore, overly done screaming. It's very campy in the sense that a lot of 80s horror is. I can totally see how if this is something you grew up with and loved, I could see this being a fucking 5 out of 5 for people that love this type of movie. It's just not something that I love. And I think that's okay. I still enjoyed it. I didn't know Sam Raimi was 22 when he made this. That's a nice fun fact to learn. Also, the poster never happened in the movie. Unless I missed it, I was a little upset about that. I'm like, this is a great poster. I expected it to be like a poll.
Which poster are you looking at? The one where
the one with the hands out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like the Vine scene.
The Vine scene.
The Vine scene was weird, by the way.
The Vine scene always makes me laugh because this girl is literally screaming at the top of her lungs for 10 minutes straight, and none of her friends come out of the house to check on her.
Yeah. This also really upset me because it's a 1981 movie. If any way this is a spoiler, sorry, but stop burying your friends. If your friends are possessed, they're fucked. Get the fuck out. Maybe you don't even have to get the fuck out, but stay there till morning is their big end goal, I guess. I'm not burying my friends at that point. He buries 2 of them and they rise. Stupid. Shout out.
He's just a good friend. Also,
bad.
The reason, and I will say, just to backtrack, the reason I think you'll like Evil Dead 2 a little more is I think the story, and Seth, I don't know, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in Evil Dead 2, the story and the lore is a little more fleshed out, and it feels more of really diving into what is going on, where I feel like the lore kind of takes a back seat in the first movie. In the second movie, it's way more prominent. It plays way more to the story and all of that stuff. So I think that's going to maybe redeem this franchise a little bit for you guys because you are going to get more history and a little more background. And I think that's something, it seems like that's something that lacked in this movie for Tyler a little bit.
Yeah.
I will say there's one, I looked up some fun facts, and Sam Raimi has said that he very much regrets that scene where the teen girl is basically just sexually assaulted by a tree it's a weird scene, but I didn't like it. I didn't like what was going on.
Okay. It's very 80s horror.
Yeah.
Very.
I guess. Seth, you're obviously a big Evil Dead guy across the original trilogy and then 2013, and you've seen Evil Dead Rise already. So what are your thoughts on the Evil Dead? Give us your full rundown.
Yeah, so I I think this film for me is second behind Evil Dead 2, and I do think Tyler will enjoy it a bit more because I think it leans on the lore a bit, story a bit more, and also if you think it's camp now, it does heavily lean into comedy a little bit more and go a little bit more absurd in general. I think it's the Evil Dead. The first one is just a landmark in visceral horror. I think it's innovative, I think it's creative, and I think it's original, especially for the time. And I think the fact that Sam Raimi, when they were filming it, Sam Raimi was 20, which is crazy to me. And to be 20 to be filming something like that is just mental. Obviously, it was very low budget. You'll notice a big upgrade in production as well throughout the films. I think the first one was around 350, and I think they got at least a few million for the second one, and the Army of Darkness was maybe 20 million, a lot higher. I think it's just a really innovative film in terms of the way it uses practical effects. I think it's just grimy, disgusting, and just crude. And like Tyler said, just completely over the top in every single way. So if you don't like that, you're not going to like it. But if you do like probably me and George, you will like it a lot more, which is why I think George will like the new Evil Dead Rise. I'm not too sure on Cam and Tyler yet because it's fucking mental.
I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. With
I was
y'all.
gonna say,
I don't know if I'll be.
I'm saving that for streaming. I can't
It's
watch
not
that in
scary.
theater.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is
No,
Cam even
probably.
gonna watch this movie?
It's not-
Yeah,
it's not scary.
we'll see. We'll see if I even make it to like Evil Dead 2. This is a movie again that I thought was fine. That didn't like pull me in for.
I think you should at least watch. You don't have to watch all of them, but I think with the big tonal change from Evil Dead 1 to 2, you should definitely watch 2 at least.
Yeah, we'll see.
Just because it's so different. But yeah, I think it's like one of the most impressive, feature-length debuts that I've seen, especially from someone of that age and the low budget. And I just think it's a landmark in horror cinema. But I definitely get why other people don't enjoy it. It's my second in the franchise, a 4 out of 5 for me.
What's your first? What's everyone's first?
The second one. The second one.
Okay.
I think we both have that at 4.5.
Okay.
So that's my second. But I just think it's a really good franchise. And like we said before, this isn't directly related to Evil Dead, the first one, but a horror franchise to have 5 films and every one be good, or decent, and to very, very good. It's so impressive.
It's like when we're coming off of Scream, obviously it was like in the same boat of just having. What do we have?
I think
Except Scream 4.
Yeah, I think.
Well, stop. Except Scream 3. You're so out of your mind.
No, Scream 3 is the bad one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But I don't like Scream 4.
I think Evil Dead for me would be like it has much higher highs than Scream, in my opinion. Anyway,
that's fair.
And I think it doesn't have as low lows. So I think Evil Dead is like one of the greatest horror franchises of all time. I think this is just the start of something great, or it was the start of something great. But yeah, really big fan of the franchise. Not my favorite, it's my second in the franchise. But I'm looking forward to hearing Tyler and Cam's thoughts specifically on the second. Because I feel like Cam, you'll either give it like a 2.5 or even like a 4 because of the big tonal change. Yeah, I'm intrigued with it. Definitely.
That's one thing I like super. Sorry, go again.
No, you're good.
I was gonna say that's something that I like super admire about the Evil Dead franchise is that like the first 3 movies they lean heavily into like the comedy and the camp, and then the 2013 Evil Dead movie they had no intention of just like being a cold cut remake, beat for beat. They took a risk, they did their own thing. Obviously, it gets a little campy at times, but they're leaning way more into the horror and the gore and like actually making like an incredibly dark shit movie. Not the movie's great. The movie's not shit. That was just a weird way of saying dark. And I think that plays well to it because it's such a crazy tonal change. And this is one of the reasons why I would take the Evil Dead franchise over the Scream franchise because they took that risk and it absolutely paid off.
Yeah, like Scream's great. Like I really like Scream franchise, but it is very much they have their formula, which is a great formula, and they stick to that. Whereas the Evil Dead franchise has these tonal changes, and even though like Cam said, there's not that much to the overall narrative of the Evil Dead Dead films. They take risks with the tone, and horror comedies are hard to pull off, but they are, and especially even the ones now, George, with the 2013 one, even the latest one, even though they are darker and even more disgusting, which is again a progression of practical effects and special effects is going to be there. There still are these moments that make you laugh, that make you smile because they know what they're doing. They're so self-aware. And I think it's very, very hard to pull that off in combination with just a disgustingly dark film. Yeah. So I just think it just takes risks more than Scream or like Halloween, for example. For me, it's just a fantastic franchise.
I do have to hop off, so I just want to say like one thing on this in the like horror genre. Like I could watch 2 hours of like zombies attacking from like The Last of Us and be perfectly fine. But I think it's just like when they say like, "Hey, this is a horror movie," I just like get spooked or whatever, because after this during this movie I was not scared, but afterwards I was like, damn, I'm kind of spooked to be walking around my house alone right
with
now.
Evil Dead.
Man, it's just I told you during the movie I wasn't too scared, but afterwards I just like I'm a little
that's
nervous.
worse.
I will also say like it's just I really respect just like whenever you watch an older movie, it's nice that like basically all of this is practical and they had to make like the melting bodies,
Apparently it was really hard with the budget.
Yeah, it's super hard. And they like had to like constantly stop shooting to raise money to keep going basically, which is just something as a 20-year-old I would have given. I'm only 23, so I'd probably give up now still, but I would just give up. Just be like, tough day. And so like it's refreshing to see something that is so practical, and obviously you can tell it's practical. You could say like it doesn't look as good as like if they just CGI'd everything nowadays, but like there's something to it that makes it more enjoyable.
Better. Do you know what I mean? Because it's the practical
No,
side. That's why I like The Thing and Alien and stuff like that. Because
I see what you're saying. I would just say like
it.
it looks, in my opinion, it looks like more in. No, I don't think it looks better because I think if you CGI something, it looks real. So like that's.
Real,
but
okay,
I just mean like it looks like more like they had. I don't know what to say. They just tried or took more care of it almost.
Looks
and
like
they wanted it to look like that, and they just
passion project. Yeah,
exactly.
It takes a lot more time and stuff.
Fellas, I do have to hop off. Tyler,
Bye-bye.
do you want me to leave or just stay on and then you end the meeting?
You can leave. You're good.
Sorry.
Love him. Love that.
You can leave.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't have a lot more to say. I feel like the Evil Dead franchise has been around for so long. You know, we've discussed this in length elsewhere, and with Evil Dead Rise coming out soon, I need to kill this entire franchise once again. And I'm happy we picked the Evil Dead for this patron movie draft because that finally got me to like actually start this franchise again.
I have a question for you, Seth.
Go for it.
After a rewatch, and I haven't rewatched The Evil Dead in a while. It's probably been a couple of years. This rewatch, and this isn't a knock to because I hate criticizing like 80s and 90s films for like not holding up well. But I don't think The Evil Dead holds up as well as something as like a Thing or The Shining in terms of like its practical effects and like, you know, I feel like the campiness of this movie is way more like apparent now.
Perhaps I think with something like Evil Dead, it's more. I don't know about hold up, but maybe it doesn't. It's more the charm that has been like infatuated with it. Because like the Thing, the practical effects are just incredible, and the Things. You know, we know the Thing's budget was a lot higher. I think the Thing was maybe 20, 15 million, something like that, a lot higher than 300. And you have to kind of take that into account for me. And the Evil Dead, knowing the story, knowing how hard it was to film, and kind of, it's more the charm for me. Like, I understand the practical effects maybe haven't aged that well, but I just think it's clearly come from such a amount of passion from Sam Raimi. Yeah. And it's such a charming project, like a charming low budget project that it ages the same. But I can definitely see on a rewatch from someone who maybe watched it a few years ago and maybe knows more about film now, that it would be like, okay, they've not aged as well as I once thought. But I think it's just the charm that's there, kind of puts something over my eyes, I guess.
Yeah, I trust me, I still a 4 out of 5 for me, and I still adore the movie, and I think it stays up to a 4 out of 5 because it was one of like the first like horror like franchises that I truly got into, and I think it was because it wasn't like, you know, it's not The Shining horror. It's not like psychological crazy horror. It's a good introduction to horror. So it always just means so much to me. But like I was watching it last night and like I was like, or during the day, I got home a little early from work because of Good Friday. But I was watching it, and as I was watching it, I was like, okay, this kind of comes off a little more cheesy than I thought it would. I think. Yeah,
I get it.
But I will say, like, I think the horror aspects of this movie still hold up very well. Like the horror, the gore, the brutality. I obviously love the practical effects usage, but it was the comedy. And I'm super curious because I also haven't seen Evil Dead 2 in like a year or so. So I'm super curious going into Evil Dead 2 now if my thoughts are going to stay the same as, you know, previously, or if they're going to change a little bit, because I know that movie makes an effort to lean more into camp. So I don't know if I'm going to like mind it as much, but like when I was watching The Evil Dead last night, I was like, okay, this movie's a bit cheesier than I remembered it to be. But obviously that was always Sam Raimi's goal. Yeah. So like it's not a knock at all.
I haven't actually seen Evil Dead 2 in probably maybe 18 months, a year as well. So same with me. You know what? I'll probably watch the next couple of days and just get them ticked off, because I probably will go and see Evil Dead Rise again. Maybe, so I can do a review with you. But I'm intrigued to see, because I haven't seen that one in at least a year and a half as well.
I'll do a review with you. We know Tyler and Cam aren't watching.
Tyler
I might, because I'm going to see. Wait, so that one comes out this Friday, right? Or this in a week? Or well, I guess
21st.
I think it's kind of the 21st, right?
Okay, well there's a strong, because there's 3 from the Raimi trilogy, then the 2013. So there's 4 movies total I'd have to watch, or 3 more before.
Yeah.
I think I might get to it. I might.
And they're all short as well. It's not like
right. Yeah, like the first one. Yeah, the first one was like 80 minutes. Yeah. Scream are all 2 hours. Yeah.
2 hours. Yeah. I think Scream Evil Dead 2 is even shorter, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So
Evil Dead 2 is 84 minutes. As well,
that's a short movie.
Dang.
Yeah,
So Seth,
Army of Darkness
is
is around that too.
I think so.
is
Yeah,
that,
Army
the,
of
is that the
Darkness,
third
like
one? Army of the Darkness.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the third one.
Yeah, that's the third one. That's,
Is Shaun of the
Squire.
Dead just like based on the first Evil Dead, and it's just like a comedy, more comedy?
Not
version of it?
really, but it's not really based on it. But I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Edgar Wright said that he had an influence based on that. But it's obviously not zombies, but the same practical effects influence from Sam Raimi. I don't know if it's not based on anything like that, but yeah. Oh, sorry. Army of Darkness is 81 minutes.
Yeah.
These are low run times, so you won't have an issue ticking them off over time. I don't think at all.
Seth, did you ever watch the show Ash vs. Evil Dead?
No, and actually that's weird because I forgot to. I was looking at this earlier, and I was going to ask you this. I didn't watch it. It's got really good reviews though, so I might.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Honestly, gonna be completely honest, I didn't even know it was a show. I just put it into Letterboxd and nothing came up.
I didn't know until a few months ago when I saw someone else talking about it.
Yeah,
But it's really high reviewed.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. I might kill an episode tonight. I'm super curious. It's got a 98 on Rotten Tomatoes and 8.4 on IMDb.
Interesting.
Obviously,
Yeah.
Bruce Campbell reprises his role. Interesting.
Mhm.
All right, well, I think that wraps up our Evil Dead discussion. Shout out Tobias Johnson for the recommendation. And again, if you guys want to get recommendations out on movies that you want us to review on the podcast, check out our Patreon. It is one of the perks of a couple of the tiers. Evil Dead Rise comes out in 2 weeks, so I'm sure, between myself and probably Tyler, you'll see us logging the rest of the Evil Dead franchise until that
I might
point.
as well.
Yeah, it's Seth as well. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for, engaging in our content. Thank you for just listening to us, I guess. Like we always say, we love talking about movies, and you guys give us that outlet to do so. Follow us on all our socials, of course. Drop us some reviews and likes and ratings on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. It means a ton to us, and it really helps just, getting word of mouth around that, we are around. That'll wrap up real quick, episode 37. And we will see you guys next week.